Welcome back to the Abundance Alchemist, your quiet space to remember who you are. Tonight we speak softly about stop chasing, receive, nighttime rewiring practice, not as a goal to chase, but as something your soul already recognizes. Somewhere along the road, you learned that running would get you what you need. That reaching a little farther, tightening your grip, would make the world open its hands. Yet now, under the hush of midnight, there's a different invitation. The gentle kind the mind doesn't know how to chase, but the body remembers. What if you've never actually been broken? What if your softness was the wealth all along? What if all this time running was just a spiral home where you already belong? Notice the way your breath arrives without effort, how it drifts in and out, carrying you further away from the noise of the day. Notice how nothing asks you to chase it here. There's a sense, deep and ancient, whispering that maybe, just maybe, you were never supposed to fight for abundance. Maybe abundance was simply the space between your heartbeats, waiting for you to let go. So tonight, let's visit that remembering, as softly as the moonlight finds your windowsill, as naturally as your eyes begin to close. You're invited to rest. Not because you've earned it, but because you are it. You're invited to listen, not for instructions, but for the hum of your own enoughness, the kind that asks nothing, takes nothing, and welcomes everything. Stay here a little longer, if you wish. Let the question linger as old armor slips away. What if receiving was never about becoming more, but about finally letting the world love you as you are? The ache, it isn't loud. It isn't always a sharp pain. More often, it's the hidden hum beneath your spirit, the sound of trying to earn each breath, to prove each sunrise. The world never asked you to be this tired, yet you wear exhaustion as if it was stitched into your skin long ago. There's a kind of silence that follows you. It shows up between the shoulds and musts, in those lonely hours when rest feels so far, when peace is just another thing to chase. Maybe you know the ache by the way your shoulders sit, curled forward just a little too often. Maybe it's the distant ache in your chest that whispers, "If I stop, everything I built might fall." But you are not a ruined building, never have been. The ache is simply a voice, not your identity. Maybe you learned long ago to gather proof that you're worthy, piece by piece, as if the world measures your soul in tasks checked off and battles won. Maybe there's a fear that softening for one moment would mean the world sees you as weak, or worse, invisible. There's a weight that comes from striving, the kind you can't see, but always feel when you close your eyes. At midnight, do you ever wonder if all this effort is the price you must pay for belonging? Or do you sense some ancient part of you remembers a softer way? You're not lazy, and you're not broken. The heart grows tired because it cares, because it wants to be chosen, wanted, cherished. Sometimes it's not the work itself that wearies us, but the secret bargain inside, to trade our ease for acceptance, our softness for significance. The ache reminds you of how deeply you long to finally lay something down. There's a quiet part of you, tender, untouched by striving. It's been watching, waiting, never rushing you. Perhaps tonight you find its gaze, gentle, steady, certain that you are already enough, even in stillness. The ache only ever wanted to be seen, not solved, to be offered rest, not reasons, before you ever chased anything. Before the rush to become worthy, to stand out, or to be chosen, there was this, a quiet ache, not loud, not wild, but steady, the holy, silent longing to set everything down and simply rest. To be met with open arms rather than open demands. To feel the world hold you as if you belong. Maybe in the late hours, you've noticed how the noise of the day breaks against a softer truth inside you, that underneath every effort and expectation, you are designed for gentle things. In this dark, in this breath, the mind gets quieter, and the longing you carry surfaces like a long-lost memory. Isn't it strange how wanting to rest feels so sacred? Almost like a prayer you never learned but always knew. The real wealth, the true abundance, waits in the moments where you let yourself be held, by the silence, by your own kindness, by something bigger than explanation. Have you felt it? That paradox where even your desire to fix yourself is just another way of asking to finally exhale, to be received, to be safe. What happens in the quiet when you stop needing to create anything? Not a future, not a mask, not a miracle. How does your body respond when you let it remember? Wanting rest is not laziness, but legacy, and receiving is not weakness, but wisdom. There is a timelessness to this ache for rest. It's as old as your heartbeat. It isn't a flaw. It's the pulse of being human, a yearning to return to softness, a holy impulse to finally let life hold you gently, the way sunlight holds closed eyes after a sleepless night. The desire is not a problem to solve, but proof of something beautiful you carry. You've never truly forgotten how, only covered it up for a while with the armor of effort. Now, as the world gets quieter, maybe the child in you wonders if it's safe to be received again, and what if it is? There's a quiet ache that visits when the house goes silent and the world closes its eyes. Maybe you know it, a feeling that if you stop for one breath, the axis of your world might tilt. The mind whispers stories, that if you do less, you'll be less. That resting will unspool everything you ever gathered. Sometimes it feels like the world is built on invisible proof that survival comes with struggle, that being enough must always be claimed, never simply allowed. Somewhere between night's hush and dawn's promise sits the fear. If you stop pushing, what might fade? Who, if anyone, would notice if you spoke in your softest voice, or not at all? The heart beats a little faster when you imagine letting the rhythms slow down, unsure of what will remain after striving leaves the room. It's almost as if that familiar tension, the bracing, the fixing, the climb, has become a kind of shelter. Safe in its way only because it's known. There is a story that presses against the bones, the one that says stopping is surrender, and surrender is loss. That if you loosen your grip, the things you love, or the self you've so carefully assembled, might dissolve into the background, unclaimed and unseen. The echo, to matter you must move, to be safe you must grasp. To be worthy you must win, or at least try. And so the loop continues until even sleep feels like a border you are afraid to cross. But softly underneath it all, a quieter truth keeps pulsing. Maybe the fear isn't just about what you'll lose, but about who you are without the needing and the doing. Who are you really when the noise fades out for a moment or for good? You find yourself searching not for rest, but for some proof that rest won't make you invisible. That life and meaning do not need your constant holding up, that maybe, if you stop pushing, nothing precious will disappear. What would it feel like to loosen that old pattern, just long enough to remember how light you once were before the world taught you to brace? Can a life be just as worthy, just as rich, without the constant chasing of meaning? Does softness have a place in the story of a life well lived? Or is it meant only for the quiet corners when no one else is watching? There is tenderness in the ache itself, a longing for permission, or for proof that you're allowed to open your hand, even for a moment. To be claimed by love, not for what you do, but simply for what rises in the soft dark as you lay everything down. The part of you that aches also knows this truth. Your value does not vanish when you rest. Your place in this world is not negotiable. Sometimes, the most honest part of you is the one who longs to let go, who hopes the whole world won't collapse but deepen if you finally stop pushing. There's a hush that lives just behind your efforts, a kind of quiet that only reveals itself after the sprint, in the soft ache of lying awake long after midnight. Maybe you know it, how the pulse quickens at the thought of being left behind, how the list in your mind grows longer every hour you're awake. There's always something else to do, always a sense that you're not quite caught up, not quite safe, not quite enough. The body learns to brace for tomorrow, even while your soul craves gentler ground. Sometimes it begins so young you barely notice. The world cheering on the hustlers, the finishers, the ones who make striving look holy. You watch the faces around you tighten in determination and decide quietly that you must too. Every achievement is a small balm, but it never quite stills that trembling inside. You wonder if this time, one last burst of effort will unlock the rest you've promised yourself. But even after the milestone, sleep tastes thin. Rest is something you bargain for, not a birthright. At night you feel the invisible pressure, the sense that someone somewhere is already ahead. The current beneath everything says, hurry, try harder, be seen. As if urgency itself was the cost of being loved. Some part of you picks up this rhythm and mistakes it for belonging, for worth. It takes up residence in the muscles, the jaw, the places that ache when the lights go out. Try harder. Don't let it slip. So much is held on your behalf by a body that wants, quietly, to let go. There's a longing deeper than any accomplishment could soothe, a hunger not just to be recognized, but to be allowed. To stop measuring what hasn't happened yet. To trust, maybe for a second, that you could be met here, exactly as you are. That urgency could be released without the whole world unraveling around you, that the outcomes, the proof, the praise, they were never meant to carry the weight of your wholeness. But the loop is so familiar it almost feels safe. If you keep striving, you're not abandoned. If you keep chasing, you're in control. If you're always on guard, there's no room for disappointment to sneak in and take you by surprise. Yet somewhere underneath the momentum, a deeper you is whispering for rest, a softer clarity, a place where time is slow and enoughness simply rises to meet you, unearned and unforced. You remember this feeling most when the world is quiet, when there's nothing left to prove and only the sound of yourself breathing in the dark. This pattern, this urge to keep running, began as a way to belong. And tonight, each breath carries you a little closer to the place you started, the place before effort became a habit. You are allowed to rest so deeply that you forget, for a moment, who you thought you had to be. And in that forgetting, something truer has room to return. Receiving, it's less like winning something, more like noticing you're already home. There's that part in you that has always tried, hasn't it? The part that believes there are certain doors you can only open when you perform the ancient rituals of enoughness, doing more, proving more, hustling more. But tonight, something softer enters. It wonders quietly if wealth could arrive like breath, not applause. Imagine standing by the ocean at night. There is nothing to chase, nowhere to get to faster. The tide rolls in, silent and generous, even when no one is watching. The sand doesn't perform to receive the water. It simply waits, and presence is enough. Or think of lying beneath the wide-open sky at dusk. Stars do not audition for worth. They simply glow, steady and true, just by being what they are. Presence is their currency. A child opens its hands without expectation, and the world gives back, sometimes a seashell, sometimes a dandelion, sometimes just the warm hush of belonging. No dance, no show, only soft attention. What if you let yourself sink, for once, into the trust that you don't have to impress life to deserve what you deeply want? What happens in the body when achievement steps aside, and enoughness gives you permission to rest where you already are? There are seasons of longing that feel like hunger, urges to gather, to become, to build new names. But the deepest gifts do not arrive by force. They approach quietly, like a friend who comes to sit with you in the dark, not because you asked, but because you allowed yourself to be seen there. So feel this truth, quietly. Receiving means staying present with what you are. You do not have to shape-shift or earn your place at the table of abundance. You need only arrive, soft, willing, unguarded, and let the moment meet you as you are. There is a kind of magnetism so old that it has no language. The quiet field that gathers around you, not because you try, not because you've asked, but because you are. The world's idea of earning is noisy. It tells you to reach farther, prove harder, find new ways to carve out a place. But the soul, when it's honest, knows creation is not a contest. You walk through spaces and the room shifts gently, almost like a tide, just because your spirit is there. There is nothing to plead, nothing to show. Real value is never in a shout. It glows between the lines of a sigh, a truth you settled into without fanfare. Have you felt how the most rooted trees do not chase the sun, yet the sun bathes them daily? When you stop holding your breath for permission, you give the world permission to breathe, too. Emitting is quieter than asking. The littlest child in you wants to be seen, but the oldest soul in you has never doubted its own shine. You're not a request letter hoping for a signature. You're the source, the author, the signature itself. Sometimes it matters because we spend lifetimes thinking maybe if I love harder, do more, apologize for my softness, then the world will let my hands be full. But magnetism isn't about capacity for hustle or the volume of striving. It's what radiates when you remember that what you are is always arising. It's in the way genuine laughter spills out when you're not watching how it lands. The warmth in your chest when you're honest with yourself, and your energy ripples out and curls back in, a quiet current. It's the way sunflowers turn, not out of desperation, but out of a silent, ancient faith that everything they need is seeking them, too. It's the old friend whose presence feels like a soft place to land, who never once needed to convince you of their worth but somehow made you feel more whole just by being near. There has never been a need to beg. True worth is complete. If it emits, it's because it cannot help but do so. And that is what you are, enough, shining, undemanding, always returned to itself, even if you forget for a little while. There is a hush at the heart of who you are, a soft current beneath every story and identity. Sometimes, in the daylight, you forget it's there, so much gets stacked atop the truth, layer after careful layer. But when night comes and all the masks fall gentle to the floor, you can hear it again, the steady, unwavering melody that says you have always been enough. Enoughness is the marrow of your soul. It cannot be traded away or outrun, no matter what the world names valuable. To sense this is like feeling the secret weight of a favorite stone in your pocket, not because someone told you it's precious, but because you've known since childhood it holds meaning. It matters to remember, not with your mind, but with the warm pulse of your own presence, that you are not lacking, not at the root where it counts, not in the places only you can touch when the world grows quiet. Imagine a sunflower, tall because it simply grows toward what feeds it, not because it earned the sun, but because light is its inheritance. Picture a river moving unhurried through its bed. It does not apologize for curves, nor does it wish itself another shape. Or think of the sky itself, spread wide in every direction. When has it ever needed to earn the right to hold clouds? Your enoughness is like that, unprovable, impossible to outperform, irrevocably woven into the pattern of your being. It softens the ache to chase more, the story that says one day you will arrive if only you work harder, prove brighter, mold yourself thinner, quieter, better. This matters deeply, because a life lived chasing enoughness can never gather real peace. And peace is where true abundance takes root, not outside you, but in the soil of your own acceptance. Tonight, may you remember the way a clover remembers the rain, not because it was worthy, but because receiving is its nature. May you sense the gentle, welcoming truth that being is the requirement, and you are already, fully, astonishingly here. Softly now, the night tucks itself around you, every teaching, every gentle echo from before, drifting deeper than thought. Nothing to work for now, just noticing how the body receives what the mind can only touch lightly. Every edge you once tensed against loosens, unraveling beneath the weight of your own forgiveness. It's not trying, not effort, not even intention. It's what happens between moments, when the lesson stops being a lesson and becomes a quiet part of the way your ribs expand with the next breath, the way your hands unclench in the dark. Somewhere along the spiral, the ache softened. The words you heard now settle, not heavy but sure, as if the soul itself was awaiting your pause, your willingness to let go of the search. You are not late for any healing. Already, your cells hum in the subtle remembering of softness. The part of you that thought it had to hold everything together rests, just for tonight, trusting that nothing essential will be lost. The quiet has a medicine in it, doesn't it? Each inhale like cool water down a thirsty throat. The wisdom of your body is not an idea to strive for. It's woven through your heartbeat, your rest, your small midnight surrender. Things you thought would take years to heal become gentle as dawn when you stop rehearsing and begin allowing. Notice how the teachings shift when they enter the body. What the mind tangled in words, the body drinks as simple comfort. A memory returns. A sunbeam warming your shoulders after rain. A river smoothing sharp stones invisible beneath the surface. The hush of snow settling, layer by layer on pine branches. The teachings change nothing and everything, as if old armor simply slides away. The space left behind sparkles with silence, with the sound of your own being, unhidden, unwinding. You don't have to repeat it or get it right. Integration is not performance. It's the privacy of your own heartbeat, the shelter you become for yourself, one quiet exhale at a time. If the mind grows restless, notice if your lungs expand anyway. If doubt returns, feel which parts of you remain soft, untouched by all the questions answered and unanswered. This is the gentle gathering of all your scattered selves, back to the center, back to the warmth of belonging. The moon moves patiently behind clouds. You too are not in a hurry. Tonight, let the lessons become sensation, let truth become breath, and notice how even in your unknowing you are whole, every teaching already written, softly into the language of your rest. Let your body find comfort, the way a shoreline receives the tide. Let the day loosen its hold, as if it's just smoke above the water. Tonight, all your quiet letting go becomes a sacred invitation to receive. Breathe in softly, not because you must, but because every inhale is proof that receiving is your original language. Let's imagine the room growing softer around you, the edges of your being blurring into calm. Light spills in through your memory, through all the places you learned to close, until those doors no longer make sense. Even silence is warm here. Notice how the air honors every part of you that wants rest, but still aches to be seen. The ceiling above is a gentle sky. The sheets are the safe ground beneath. Here, you're offered everything you never allowed yourself to keep. With each breath, the repetition of receiving becomes a quiet anthem. Each inhale is an arrival, each exhale a gentle promise kept. Even your heart, steady and constant, is an ancient rhythm repeating, "You are welcome, you are welcome, you are welcome." Nothing to achieve, nothing to prove. Just the miracle of being held, moment after moment, by a softness that has always survived here. If your mind tries to return to old stories, let it drift the way petals float down a quiet river. The repetition isn't about force, it's about trusting that ease can return again and again until it shapes who you are underneath every mask. When you meet resistance, smile as if you remember. Even resistance is just the body longing to be received. Softly, let's layer presence upon presence. In this space, repeat in your heart or mouth as you drift. I am the keeper of soft abundance. Here and now, I receive with no need to prove. Every breath returns me to safety and belonging. Receiving is woven into the core of my being. It is safe for me to rest and still be chosen by life. Even as I sleep, I am seen, adored, and provided for. My softness seals my wealth. I choose to remember again and again. Let these words curl around every part of you that ever wondered if it was